Hey, good morning, good day, fellow babies. Welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. We are hopeful that you are watching as a Patreon patron. If you are, thank you so much. You're getting it real time. We also are hopeful that you have figured out how to link your Twitch Prime account to your Amazon account. If you can do that, we are getting paid there as well. So you're getting it real time. And if you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, that'll work for us as well. If you can't do any of those things, if you don't have the money, I totally get it. Then you're watching a week late. But again, we appreciate your patronage. At a minimum, please follow me on Twitter at Michael Pachter. Let's get to today's question. From Sifted from Neo JD. Xbox said it expects to have console shortages until April. Do you believe supply will catch up to demand by then? When will customers finally be able to pick up both new consoles without a hassle? Supply and demand's a fun thing. It's managed, and the companies that make the product understand the supply side, so they know exactly how many consoles they're making. Demand is the part that they can't control. And so they do the best they can to model out demand and figure out, if we price our console at $500, how many people are going to want to buy it. And if we have a diskless console at $400, how many people are going to want to buy that. And they tend to use pre-order information to forecast that. So typically, and I don't know the number, but just to make an illustration, if pre-orders are 100,000 units of a console, then they multiply that times 10. And they say demand through March will be 1 million. I mean, that's kind of how they think about it. I don't know that it is a 10-to-1 ratio, but they have data from every console they've launched, and they've launched 3. Sony's launched, I think, 4. So these guys know, kind of what the pre-orders look like and how to forecast. So when Microsoft says April, that's probably what pre-order data and early purchase data told them. And of course, we know they're sold out. So early purchases are really hard to measure because, if you shipped 500,000 units and they all sold out, you don't know if demand was 700,000 or 2 million. You just know that it was 500,000 plus. So pre-orders is how they do it. And saying April, typically they're being sincere. I mean, they believe that that's when their supply will catch up to demand. The trick is that when they're wrong, they're really wrong. So if you kind of roll back to the Wii back in 2006, Nintendo forecast it would ship 14 million units. And they did, in fact, ship 14 million units, and the thing was sold out for close to 2 years. And the reason for that was they thought demand to be 14, and it was something much higher. The second year, they said, we're going to ship 19 million units. And remember, the thing launched, in the fall, and they gave out guidance at the end of April. So literally 5-6 months after launch. And they said 19 million. So that was their production plan. And they were still sold out by the next April. So then their next forecast was 21, and they barely caught up. And then the next year was 24. Then they cut price, obviously. So the forecast is only as good as your interpretation of the data, and it is early. I will say that the next gen consoles aren't enough of a step up to make everybody who bought a console last cycle think they have to have one. The potential increase in game prices, and for sure we know Take-Two is raising the price of NBA. For sure we know Activision is going to charge $70 for Call of Duty if you buy it for both consoles. If you buy it for old gen, it's $60. For sure we know EA is tinkering with the idea of raising price. Madden and FIFA are $60, and they'll guarantee you a new copy of the new game, but only until the next Madden and FIFA launch, and that tells you the price is going to 70. So at 70, maybe you're thinking, I don't really want this. If you play on the next gen consoles, and again, I don't see much difference, but in fairness, I don't have a 4K TV yet, so I'm playing it on a 1080p TV. Looks the same to me. The load times are like a nanosecond. I mean, the load times are like seconds as opposed to minutes. So and the game saves are seconds, not minutes. And when you pull up an old level, it's seconds, not even seconds, like a second. So everything is blindingly fast, and I think that's a really cool thing. But that's not enough to make you go out and steal if you don't have a job. And so we're in a recession. We have a lot of unemployed people. I think that not the first adopters, but after you get through the rich kids, then you get to the self-indulgent people who will beg, borrow, and steal to buy a console. But then when you get into the mass phase of the cycle, those are people who maybe they're the teenager in the house where the dad just lost his job. So I think the recession is going to depress demand. So April sounds right to me. The trick, though, as I said, back to the Nintendo Wii example, production is a function of what they think demand is going to be before they make the first console. So let's just say, because I can do this math in my head, Microsoft decided demand year one would be 12 million, and they're making 1 million a month. And they rolled back to, say, first production in May, so May, June, July, August, September, October. And they launched, in November with 6 million units. And that's global. And that is, going to keep them going. And then, November, December, January, February, March, April, they'll get to the 12 million by April. That's kind of what they think if they forecast 12 million. If they forecast 10 million, it'll be 10 million by April. If they forecast 6 million, that's what it'll be by April. We don't know that number. Microsoft sold about 10 million a year the last cycle. Sony sold about, closer to 20 million, 18 million a year. So, Sony's probably making 1.5 million a month right now. Microsoft's probably making under 1 million a month, and that's their best guess. And like I said, Nintendo with the Wii made 14 million the first year, and it wasn't enough. And made 19 million the second year, and it wasn't enough. And then they finally caught up when they went to 21. So we'll see. Microsoft probably is right, because as I said, a lingering recession kind of means fewer people have money. And again, the recession is not broad-based. If you work in hospitality, you work in restaurants or hotels or cruise ships, you probably don't have a job, or your job is cut back. I'm on the finance committee of my yacht club, and we've actually bent over backwards to keep everybody employed, because we want these people to come back and be happy and treat everybody with respect when they come back. But honestly, if we were a restaurant, we'd be firing everybody, and we're not. So I feel bad because the waiters aren't making tips because we're shut down right now, but they're at least getting their salaries. They're at least making their $15 an hour in salary, which for some of them is not even enough to pay the rent, but it's better than nothing, and they're out of unemployment. So, I don't think most restaurants do that. And if you're a restaurant worker and you want a console, probably something you can wait to get. So I think that Microsoft's being honest. Will you be able to pick them both up in April? Probably. I think you will. There's a reason that there's no frontline titles for the Xbox, because they didn't want to do anything to spur demand that they can't, fulfill. There's a reason why Miles Morales, I think, is Demon's Souls out? Yeah, maybe that's it. But there's no Gran Turismo, there's no Uncharted, there's no Last of Us, that came out in the summer. Sony knew that they weren't going to meet demand, and so these guys are really getting smart about how they parse out titles. And I think they actually would like to support demand in year 2, 3, 4 with frontline titles. So Halo coming next year probably is the right time for it to come. So answer, yes, April, but happy to be wrong, because I'm often wrong and never in doubt. All right, thanks for joining us on Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. And again, if you're a Patreon patron, we appreciate your patronage. If you have linked your Twitch Prime account to your Amazon Prime account, please remember to re-up that. We get a couple bucks a month, and that's really helpful, so Shane can actually afford to produce these things. And if you can subscribe on YouTube, we appreciate anything that you are willing to commit. You're getting all that real time. If you're doing none of those and you're getting this a week late because you don't care, or you have no money, or you lost your job, I'm sorry. Please follow me on Twitter, and you will see I'm sincerely sorry. And I'm a Democrat, and I hope everybody is taken care of in this tough time. And I voted Democratic so we would get some stimulus. So I hope that you guys who don't have any money are going to get some stimulus from the government, because the government needs to support you. Stay in school. Don't be a fool. This will help you get a good job where you can actually afford to vote your conscience, which is really what matters. I hope everybody is healthy and safe and sane. And I hope you guys get through the year unscathed, and your families.